Very good morning dear students. This video is for class 10th subject science chapter number 13, that is magnetic effects of current, and this is lecture number 6. So dear students, in our previous lecture we have studied about the force on a current carrying conductor which is placed in a magnetic field. And today we are going to study a new topic which is electromagnetic induction. So previously we have studied that when a conductor is placed in a magnetic field in such a way that the current flowing in the conductor is perpendicular to the magnetic field lines, then it experiences a force, and because of that force rotatory motion produces, that we have seen in case of the electric motor. But don't you think this process can be reversed? Here we were having magnetic field, current, and we produced motion. Is it possible that we are having magnetic field, we provide motion, can it cause the production of current? So yes, it is possible that with the help of magnetic field and the motion, so that we apply the force in a magnetic field on a conductor, and this will produce the current in the conductor. So this phenomena of production of current in the magnetic field in a conductor is known as electromagnetic induction. Let us imagine a situation that the magnetic field around a conductor is changing. So we are having the magnet which will produce the magnetic field, and we are having a conductor in which now there is no current, but we want to produce the current in this conductor with the help of this magnetic field. But earlier we have seen that the current was flowing perpendicular to the magnetic field lines, and that was creating a force on the conductor. That was exerting a force on the conductor which was making this conductor to move or to rotate. But now we have to rotate the conductor in the magnetic field, because basically what is the demand of the production of the current? That we have to change the magnetic field. Changing magnetic field can produce electric current. Why? I'll tell you later. But just think of the situation that when inside a magnetic field or a magnetic field is changing around a fixed conductor, or a conductor is moved in a magnetic field. So in both the cases, the magnetic field around the conductor will change. And what will happen with the help of the changing magnetic field? This will create, or you can say this will develop the potential difference across the ends of the conductor, which will make the charges to flow, and hence there will be the flow of current. So let us understand with the help of activity. It was Michael Faraday who performed simple experiments to show that the electric current I can be produced in a closed circuit without the use of any electrochemical cell or a battery, just by moving or the changing magnetic field. So our basic requirement is change in magnetic field, that how this change in magnetic field can be done. So he performed some of the experiments, that is given as the activity number 13.8 in your NCERT book, and what is there in the activity? That we are having a conductor in the form of a coil, and this conductor is brought near a bar magnet. So we are having two things. One is a coil and one is a bar magnet. So magnetic field, here we do not have any kind of magnetic field because there is no flow of current, and this is not a magnetic material. So what will happen here, that a bar magnet is having a magnetic field around it. It is having the lines emerging from the north and entering up into the south. So this bar magnet is having a magnetic field around it, but we need change in magnetic field. And how we have to prove this thing? That magnetic field should change in order to induce the current in the coil. So this can be done in two ways. First, let us keep the coil and the bar magnet stationary to each other. That means we are not changing the position of the coil and the bar magnet. We have placed them once. So what will happen to them? The magnetic field lines which are produced from the north pole of the bar magnet are passing through the coil. But here the number of field lines crossing the coil, or you can say the number of field lines around the coil, are not changing. So here no potential difference is produced. What will happen? If we close this circuit, because for the flow of charge or for the flow of current we need a closed circuit. So if we attach a galvanometer which can detect the presence of the current, so it will tell us that there is no deflection in the galvanometer. That means no current is there in the circuit. So let us move the bar magnet first. So when we keep this north pole towards this coil, so let's say this coil is A, B. This end is A and this end is B. And when we move this north pole of the bar magnet towards the coil, here a momentary deflection is shown in the galvanometer. Let's say it is towards the right. And when we move it back away from the coil or from the B end of the coil, then also there is a momentary deflection. Momentary deflection means when we are keeping it close, then there is a deflection in the galvanometer. When we keep it stationary, this will again come to 0. And when we keep it back, when we bring it away from the B end of the coil, then again there is a deflection. But here the deflection will be in reverse direction. So this was the first case, that when the bar magnet is moved towards the coil or away from the coil, there is a deflection shown in the galvanometer in both the directions. So what can be concluded from this activity? That the bar magnet, when moved towards or away from the closed coil, the galvanometer shows the deflection, and the deflection in the galvanometer indicates that yes, there is a presence of current in the coil, and this electric current is called induced current. Because with the help of changing magnetic field, we have produced the current in the coil. It is not provided by any electrochemical cell or a battery. So that is why it is called induced current. The second case can be that we have the coil attached with the galvanometer, and we are having a bar magnet which is having a north and south pole. That is obvious. So earlier we were moving the bar magnet towards or away from the coil, that is A, B coil. But this can be done in another way, that we keep this bar magnet stationary and this AB coil is moved towards the bar magnet. This can be done in that way as well. Because what will happen in that case? This will also change the magnetic field. And how it is done? So let's say we are having this coil and the bar magnet with us. So this bar magnet is having magnetic field around it. And how do we know? That we have done it earlier. We have understood it very well. So dear students, these are the magnetic field lines which are getting produced from the north pole, which are emerging out from the north pole of the bar magnet, and they are moving away from the pole. So when we move the bar magnet towards the coil, or we keep this bar magnet stationary and move this coil towards the bar magnet, that what is happening? We are having two ends of the coil. Here, the number of magnetic field around this end of the coil is different, and number of magnetic field lines, or you can say the magnetic field strength at this end of the coil is different. So at the two ends of the coil, we are having different magnetic fields that produces, or you can say, potential difference is produced, or potential difference is induced in the ends of the coil. And this induced potential difference, when galvanometer is connected or the closed circuit is made with the coil, then it makes the flow of charge. Because what is needed to make the charge flow? It is the potential difference which is required. And here, because of the bar magnet or the magnetic field of the bar magnet, here potential difference is induced, and hence a current is induced in the coil. So this current is called induced current. So dear students, it can be concluded from this activity that the motion of the magnet with respect to the coil produces an induced potential difference, which sets up an induced electric current in the circuit. And this direction of the current changes when the motion of the bar magnet with respect to the coil changes. But students, just keep in mind that always moving a bar magnet towards the coils or a coil towards the bar magnet is not always easy. Or this production of induced current will not be enough to. So dear students, if we have a bar magnet which is small enough and a coil, even if it is of many number of turns, still it is not always easy to move a heavy magnet towards the coil or the coil towards the magnet. So this basic phenomena is fine, but it is not feasible, or you can say the amount of induced current will not be enough to be used in a practical application. So there is one more activity in your NCERT book, that is activity number 13.9. And what is done in the activity, that we have one coil which is having current flowing in it. So one coil which is having a current flowing in it, that means this coil, let's say it is AB, and this is connected with a battery, and near this first coil which is having the current flowing in this, another coil, let's say CD, of different number of turns, or this should have less number of turns actually, is placed near the first coil. Here we are having a galvanometer instead of a battery, because here what we want, that the current flowing in the coil AB will produce the magnetic field around it. So this coil will work as the magnet. It will produce the magnetic field. And because of this magnetic field, we have to see whether there is induced current in the coil CD or not. And that can be checked with the help of this galvanometer, because this will detect the presence of the current. So what happens when this activity is performed? So in activity number 13.9, we have a paper, or you can say insulated body, on which two coils are wrapped. So we are having a paper wrap on which two coils are wrapped of different number of turns. Let's say it is 100 turns and it is of 50 turns. So coil 1 and coil 2. First coil, which is having 100 number of turns, is connected with a battery, and the second coil is connected with a galvanometer that can help to detect the current in the coil C2. So in this activity, what we do, that when, here we are also having a key, that when this key is closed, then what will happen? The charge will start flowing in the coil 1. And when we know that when the current is flowing in a conductor, it produces a magnetic field around it. So we have seen it in case of the circular loops, or the magnetic field around in a solenoid. So that we have seen. So this is that case. So in this coil also, the magnetic field will be developed, and this coil will have the magnetic field around it, or it will behave as the bar magnet now. So as this is behaving a bar magnet, so as soon as the current starts flowing in the circuit, what we observe, that there is a deflection in the galvanometer. Let's say it is towards the right. And this galvanometer deflection is momentary. When the current becomes steady, that means now the current is reached to the maximum value and now it is not changing. Then what happens? This becomes, or this comes to its original position. That means it comes to 0. Now that means there is no current now, or no induced current now. But if we remove this key, or we open up the key, then again there is a deflection in the galvanometer. That means there is an induced current in the coil C2 whenever the current is starting or stopping. So you can say that when the current is steady or 0, there will be no induced current. But if the current is starting or increasing or decreasing, in both the cases the magnetic field, because what is changing because of the change in the amount of the current? Magnetic field strength. Because the magnetic field is basically changing around the conductor when we are increasing or decreasing the current. And we need the magnetic field change or the changing magnetic field to induce the current in another coil. So, this activity concludes that there is an induced current in the second coil only when the current is starting or stopping in one coil, or when the current becomes steady or zero, then there is no potential difference developed across the ends of the coil 2, and thus there will be no flow of the current. So induced current is there only when the current, or you can say the magnetic field, is changing. This changing magnetic field is what? Number of magnetic field lines per unit area. So this is what basically we need, or this is called, this magnetic field line per unit area, number of magnetic field lines per unit area is called magnetic flux. So we need a magnetic flux which is changing to induce the current in the circuit. So we can define electromagnetic induction as the phenomena of producing induced current in a closed circuit or a coil due to the change in the magnetic field in the nearby circuit or the coil. So here there is no direct contact between the two circuits or the coils, and just because of the nearby magnetic field or flux changing, there is a current induced in the another coil or circuit. So this phenomena of producing current in a closed circuit because of the help of the changing magnetic field in a nearby circuit or coil is called EMI, that is electromagnetic induction. So dear students, we can also define it as in a different manner, that wherever there is a relative motion between the magnet and the closed coil, current is induced in the coil. This phenomena is also called electromagnetic induction. The next is factors on which induced current depends. So here we have three factors. The first factor is number of turns in the coil. Larger the number of the coils, larger will be the current induced. So number of turns in the coil is directly proportional to the induced current. Larger will be the induced current. Second is magnetic field strength. So dear students, we have already studied this many a times, that higher the magnetic strength, higher will be the induced current. Earlier we have studied when we increase the amount of current flowing in the conductor, then strength of magnetic field increases. Vice versa is also true, that when magnetic field is higher, magnetic field strength is higher, then induced current will also be higher in amount. The third factor is the speed of the coil or the magnet. So this is the speed with which the magnet is moved towards the coil, or coil is moved towards the magnet. So if the magnet moves very quickly, then large induced current is produced in the closed coil, because here the magnetic flux is changing very fast. Till now we have studied about the induced current in the closed coil or closed circuit. But how to find the direction of the current induced in the coil? So it was given by Fleming. So that is why this rule is called Fleming's right hand rule. Earlier we have studied about Fleming's left hand rule, which was used to find the direction of the force when the current is flowing perpendicular to the magnetic field of the magnets. But according to Fleming's right hand rule, what we have to do is, we have to stretch our right hand. This is my right hand. So we have to stretch our right hand in such a way that my first finger indicates the direction of the magnetic field applied. My thumb points in the direction of the motion. Then my central finger will give the direction of the induced current. So according to Fleming's right hand rule, we have to stretch our right hand in such a way that thumb, first finger and our central finger are mutually perpendicular to each other, and the first finger is indicating the direction of the magnetic field, thumb is pointing in the direction of the motion, then our central finger will give the direction of the induced current. So this we can draw it like that. This is our thumb, this is our first finger, and the central finger is this, which is, so all these three are mutually perpendicular to each other. So this is our thumb, first finger and the central finger. The way to remember is that the thumb is indicating the direction of the motion, first finger indicates the direction of the magnetic field. So I am writing it as field. Then our central finger will give the direction of the induced current. So you can also remember it like M, F, C, or mother, father, child. So dear students, we have completed electromagnetic induction, which is the reverse process of the electric motor. Because earlier in electric motor, what we were doing? We were converting electrical energy into mechanical energy. But here we are applying mechanical energy and we are producing electrical energy. So this is the reverse process of the electric motor, and the devices which are based on this process, this principle, are electric generators. So electric generators we'll study in our next lecture. Till now we have seen what is electromagnetic induction. We have seen two activities. Then we have seen the factors on which electromagnetic induction depends. Then at the end we have done the way or the method to find out the direction of the induced current. That is Fleming's right hand rule. So this is it for today's lecture. Now let us see today's homework. In today's homework we have two questions. Question number 1 is, explain different ways to induce current in a coil. We have studied different methods and now you have to write it in a particular answer. Question number 2 is, state Fleming's right hand rule. So you have to write the method by which we find out the direction of the induced current in the closed circuit. Now let us see the homework solutions of lecture number 5. So dear students, in lecture number 5 we were having total 6 questions in total, and the question number 1 was, which of the following property of a proton can change while it moves freely in a magnetic field. Here we have been given a hint that there may be one or more correct answers in the given options. So we have been given A. mass, B. speed, C. velocity and D. momentum. So when a proton is moving freely in magnetic field, then what changes? Its velocity and its momentum. And you know why it happens? Because we know that on any moving charge, the force exerting is BQV, where V is the velocity. So charge will never change in case of a proton. Magnetic field remains the constant. Then what is there which will change? It is the velocity. And we also know that momentum is mass into velocity. So when velocity is going to be changed, where mass is the same, then momentum will also change. So velocity and momentum will get changed. Question number 2 was, in activity 13.7, how do we think that the displacement of rod AB will be affected? First, when we increase the current in rod AB. So when AB rod is there and we increase the value of current, so what displacement of the rod? So we know that the displacement or the force exerted on the rod AB is given by force is equal to BIL, where B is the magnetic strength, I is the current and L is the length of the conductor. So what is increasing here? Current in the rod AB is increased. So when current is increased, so this displacement or the force exerted on the rod AB will be increased. So the first case, the displacement will get increased. Second is, a stronger horseshoe magnet is used. So by using a stronger horseshoe magnet, what we are doing? We are increasing the magnetic field strength. So as these are directly proportional, so the displacement will also get increased. So in second case also, the displacement will get increased. The third is, length of rod AB is increased. So it's obvious that length is directly proportional to the displacement in the rod. So in third case, the answer is that displacement is increased when the length of the rod is increased. The next question for us is, a positively charged particle, let's say it is alpha particle, projected towards west is deflected towards north by a magnetic field. Then the direction of the magnetic field is towards south, towards east, downward or upward. So to answer this question, we know that according to Fleming's left hand rule, we have to stretch our thumb, first finger and central finger in such a way that the thumb is pointing the direction of the force, first finger is pointing the direction of the magnetic field, and the central finger is showing you the direction of the current. So here we have been given the direction of the current, that is towards west, and the force is towards north. So if we see it in the left hand rule situation, then it becomes, so dear students, this is my left hand and I have stretched my thumb, my first finger and my central finger in this way that they are mutually perpendicular to each other. So if I align the thumb in the direction of the force, then this should be towards north. Then the second thing is asked about is the direction of the current. So our central finger is used to show the direction of the current. So this will be this side. So when I apply this law, then my first finger is pointing towards upward. Hence we can say that the direction of the magnetic field will be upward. So we know that according to the Fleming's left hand rule, we have to stretch our left hand in such a way that our thumb, first finger and central finger are mutually perpendicular to each other when the first finger is giving the direction of the magnetic field, central finger indicates the direction of the current flowing in the circuit, then our thumb will indicate the direction of the force exerted on the conductor, or you can say the motion of the conductor. So let's see the next question. Question number 5 is, what is the principle of an electric motor? So we know that principle of an electric motor is that when a conductor is placed in a magnetic field in such a way that the current flowing in the conductor is perpendicular to the magnetic field, then the conductor experiences a force. Question number 6 is, what is the role of the split rings in the electric motor? So dear students, while answering the question, I am taking the help of your NCERT book. So diagram given on page number 232 in the topic electric motor is here. That we have the armature coil ABCD placed in the magnetic field north and south poles of the horseshoe magnet. Here you can see these half C you are seeing is the split ring. So split rings are P and Q here. So we have been asked in the question that what is the role of this split ring? So just imagine the situation where the split rings are not provided, or we are having just a commutator which is connected throughout, or which is completely connected to each other. Then what will happen? Then when AB arm experiences the upward force, then it moves up and this goes down. So what would have happened when this is going down? So this will come up here and this arm will come up here. Then again, what will happen? Then this arm will, because now it is not changing the direction of the current. So again, what will happen? This is going to be a messy electric circuit, or this is not going to be work. So split rings are helping us to reverse the direction of the current after every half cycle or every half rotation. Like AB is coming on the position of CD, then again it is coming, or it is reversing the direction of the current, so that again this AB is experiencing a force downward and CD is experiencing a force upward, so that it can take a complete revolution. So that is how rotatory motion takes place. So split rings are helping us in reversing the direction of the current after every half cycle. So this is it for today's lecture. I hope all the answers are clear to you. So dear students, in next lecture we are going to study the electric generators. So till then, take care and goodbye.